Okay, sorry, it's 7:02, 1902 for those inclined on the 24-hour clock. Today is Thursday, the 26th of October, 2023. This is your week two LDR 490 Leadership Capstone course Zoom session. Okay, I apologize, getting a little bit of a late start here. And I know I missed last week, so I know this hasn't, this has probably been a little frustrating for you. So let me extend to you my apology up front and tell you I appreciate your patience. I'm getting a wavy screen here for some reason. I'm not sure why, but you don't need to necessarily look at the video. I'm trusting that you can see my screen. I was going to give people a couple minutes to come in, see if anybody was going to join, but since I started a little late, I'm going to go ahead and just pop right into it. If you're seeing my screen, you should see the two books that we have for this course. They're not textbooks. They are autobiographies or similar vignettes. We're using them like case studies. We're using the J.W. Bill Marriott Jr. book, Without Reservations. And we're using the Robert Watson Leadership Secrets of the Salvation Army. Two good books. Both are packed full of leadership examples, hence the reason they were picked. The one, Without Reservations, is a for-profit organization, and of course the Salvation Army is a IRS designated 501 nonprofit. Okay, even nonprofit organizations have to take in more than they spend. Otherwise, they get in trouble, just like any place else. They won't be lasting long. In both cases, in the case of the Salvation Army, they've lasted well over 100 years. Obviously, a success story. And the Marriott organization has been around for a significant amount of time. Not over a century, but certainly 70 years, close to it. And so that's why they were picked, two successful organizations. So let's dive into them and see what we have. So this course is different than the norm. The norm, you have a textbook, you read principles, techniques, models, theories, aspects of leadership, and then you were given exercises to apply them into your own life and demonstrate your knowledge of saying. In this class, it's more of a Socratic method. In other words, we take a similar text or book that we've read, and then we teach ourselves. We teach each other. In fact, as a student, it's intended that you would pull, excuse me, I apologize. You would pull leadership aspects that you've already learned out of what you're reading in these case studies and share them with other students and quote unquote teach yourselves. And that's the setup. In a seated class, that works a little bit easier. In this regard, and how we do it within the framework of an online course, we're a little bit limited. But suffice it to say that the idea here is that you've already been given the textbook knowledge. You've demonstrated that you understand and mastered that knowledge, hence the reason there are prerequisites to this course. And that it's up to you to pull out from these two readings that which reinforces your points, your conclusions. Remember, the fundamental relationship, the one that matters the most, is your conclusion and the evidence used to support it. So you're posed a few questions. I'll go over those for this week and the next week here in just a minute. The questions are not designed as a quote unquote scavenger hunt. In other words, I don't ask you an arcane definition or principle and then you go find it. I give you a very broad question and then have you give me your analysis. Your analysis. I say that sometimes too fast. Sorry, a little humor there. But in the end, that's the idea. Okay, so you're given a question as to this past week, for example, of analyze the mission statements of both organizations. Okay. All right. Well, how do you do that? What is it that analysis should show? Well, that's the key to this course, and that's what you show me. And in those that turned in that assignment, it's case, you all did well. One of you took a unique track or tack on it. I hadn't seen in quite some time, but I liked what you did. And when I show you some information on possible response, don't look at that as a critique of yours or a uh, effort to give you the answer. It is more of giving you information and seeing if you agree and some things that I'd like you to consider. All right. So keep up the good work. People are tracking very well. I like what you're doing. The certainly a couple of you are getting your assignments in very early. I like that. You'll note that I will not grade them until everybody has had theirs turned in. That's more of as a matter of equity because when I read your reports or what you turn in, I normally will give them 3 reads. First reading is to make sure that you adhere to what the requirement was and that you answered the question, or at least attempted to, that you didn't go off on a tangent. The second reading is more in depth and designed to pull out um, errors as I see them, to include grammatical or punctuation. Again, I'm not an English major, so this is obviously more of a did you proofread your paper than anything. And then the third reading is an overall feel. I don't grade on a curve, but I do that because there may be a day where I read one paper and I grade it harder than another on a different day. That's not to say I grade when I'm only in a good mood. It's more of a try to ensure there's some not continuity. What am I thinking? Congruency in the grading. Okay, not necessarily consistent, but of a like matter. Okay, congruent is the right word here. I think. Okay, so this course started on Monday, the 16th of October. We're going to end it on Wednesday, the 6th of December. This course is 50% your discussion forum and your response to a weekly question or two, depending. So where does that other 50% come from? Well, it comes from your final paper. All right. Now, I've been doing this course long enough. I've been teaching it for a few years now. I even remember teaching this course when it was a 5-week course, and we did it in the classroom. So we've had some challenges. So we've gone 5-week program, 8-week program, 6-week program. Now we're on a 7.4-week program. So we've definitely covered the basis, if you will. So that's why starting this week, you've got chapters of your paper that you're going to turn in. In other words, chapter 1 of your paper, your final paper, is due this Sunday, no later than 23:59, please, 11:59 p.m. And what the idea here is that you're going to write a chapter a week, total of 5. You will cover in that chapter an aspect of leadership that you think is important to effective leadership. Okay. In the end, by week 7, you will place a introductory paragraph on that paper. You will end that paper with a conclusion paragraph, and sandwiched in between the introductory paragraph and the conclusion paragraph will be your 5 chapters. Think of this as you writing, for example, a textbook on leadership. And just as your textbooks had an introduction and a conclusion or summary, each of your textbooks covered a certain topic every chapter. You would add a chapter on motivation, a chapter on communication, a chapter on innovation, a chapter on conflict resolution, chapter on teamwork. Okay, all those. Chapter on mission and vision. And that's what you're doing here. You're writing those chapters. Now, in those chapters, you would bring your concepts from previous text work, and I provide you the LDR 300 PowerPoint slides to each week here on Moodle. Normally and obviously that the Leadership 300 chapters don't necessarily track with your readings, nor could they. It's just not designed for that. But you're given the entire LDR 300 as a whole, so you can look ahead if you want to review those chapters. Hopefully you kept your LDR 300 text. For those of you that had me for LDR 300, I told you I recommended you hold on to that text just for this reason, this particular class. But be that as it may, University of Mount Olive policy is I can only grade your paper once. So typically what I will do is I will not give you a technical grade on those chapters as you turn them in. I will provide you feedback, and I will tell you where I think you're tracking. In other words, I will say something to the effect of what you wrote here. If it continues, I would expect your final grade on that final paper to be a B or a C or a A. Okay. And then I will grade your final paper. Okay. Does that mean you can't change your chapters before the final paper? No, you certainly may. In fact, I would encourage you to continue to improve and refine based on my feedback and based on what you see. But the whole idea here is that since that paper is worth 50% of your grade, and in some of your cases you have not had me before as a instructor, I don't want any surprises because at that point it's too late to fix. Because this paper is worth 50% of your grade, it's more than just a couple pages. In fact, each chapter should be 3 to 5 pages, to be quite frank. And again, I don't grade on number of pages. I don't grade on word counts. In other words, if you don't hit the right number, you get a lesser grade. It's not what I do. What we do is we provide those page numbers, if you will, those word counts as more of a guide, if you will, or reference as to how much time and effort to put into it. You know, in some cases, I may tell you your response should only be a couple hundred words. Well, if it's only a couple hundred words I give you, then you have to get to the point quick and then end it. And so there's an expectation when I give you a low word count. I just want you to get to it, and then we'll cover the rest in your feedback to other students. If I tell you that your final paper is going to wind up being about 20 pages, then that's the expectation is that you put some time and thought and some depth into that paper. Okay. In no case am I saying that if you can't cover the points in the least amount of pages, you get a lower grade. I'm not saying that at all. If you make your points and you do an effective job uh, providing evidence for those points, right, backing them up, then you'll do fine, regardless of how many pages it is. If, for example, however, by example, you need more than 30 pages, you need 50, and you don't just add, words to add words. I use the example, I don't know if you ever saw the movie, The Shining with Jack Nicholson, Stephen King horror movie where Jack Nicholson is a would-be writer and he's taken the job of caretaking a hotel through the winter so he can focus on his book. And at some point he starts to lose it for whatever reason, cabin fever, or, it's haunted, or, possessed, or whatever. His wife discovers that all the pages he's typed all say, all work, no play makes Jack a dull boy. She starts to freak out. It's it is a freaky scene in the movie. But I guess what I'm saying is, don't fill 30 pages of just a bunch of fluff just to fill pages and impress me with the weight of your work. Okay, get to the point and use the space you have to reinforce that point. Okay, but again, the reason you're turning these in is so that we can have that discussion in week 2, week 3, week 4, week 5, week 6, before you have to turn in the paper and then get a quick grade. And now all of a sudden we've got a surprise that's, again, worth 50% of your grade. I would rather we kind of take the long run. So that's why you're doing that. All right, so let's show you that. Okay, so again, announcements, same setup of other courses I teach. Check that. Today I didn't get into releasing next week's assignment instructions. I apologize for that. I got hung up at my normal job, or my full-time job. I will get those out tomorrow, plus give you the feedback on your forum posts. Okay, attendance. We took attendance. Should be any surprises there. And of course, the normal setups. Start here, syllabus lounge. Still can't quite figure out why I can't get my icon photo to show up there, but that's okay. Be that as may. Excuse me, I just developed the hiccups. Let me take a sip of something. Something being iced tea, not anything alcoholic, I assure you. All right, and then weeks 1 through 7.4, or week 0.4. Okay, and then we end with course summary. So, so let's take a look at week number 2. Again, I don't have anybody, nobody in the lobby, nobody's joining me. We're still recording, it looks like. Things are tracking, so I'm going to continue, but I'll probably go about another 9 minutes, at least until I get the pop-up saying they're going to cut me off. Try to keep these at about 30 minutes, not to rush, but not to overwhelm. And again, these are posted. Let me show you where they are posted. They're posted very close to the same place you found the link. Go in the student lounge. And again, hopefully my screen is sharing. Getting to know you, student coffee house, session information. That's where you find your links for these sessions. But here in their weekly office hour Zoom sessions, shared video files, this is where you'll find, of course, I canceled last week's. I appreciate everybody's patience on that. But I will add, it'll be week 2 Zoom session. And when you go into that link, when it shows, it'll be later on tonight after I'm done with the session, obviously. You will have a short write-up and then the link to YouTube where you can view that Zoom session at your leisure. Okay, or go back to watching it, or however you want to do, or not watch it. It's up to you. Okay. Let's come out of that. Let's get back home. And let's get down to week 2. So last night you would have answered a discussion forum, which was a pretty good question. I like it. Okay. But I wanted you to choose a concept that you learned from each of your readings. So from Marriott and from Salvation Army that you found most interesting, and explain what value you see in it and why it's important to you. So what am I talking about there? Oh, and how you'll use it, your role as a leader. So again, we're talking concepts, getting back to your paper. Okay, so maybe your readings told you that both Marriott and Salvation Army covered leadership by walking around, or leadership by example, of the CEO being out where he can be seen or she can be seen. Okay, that's a concept. Taking care of your employees is a concept. Instilling a culture is a concept. Reviewing what your mission statement says you are with what you actually are doing is a concept. Okay, so last week I asked you to analyze mission statement. You could have expanded on that, here in this week, or you could have picked up how these companies started. In other words, was it an in-depth analysis of what was needed, or did it kind of come across as these companies or these organizations started because somebody had just an inspiration, and no real idea of where it was going to take them? Certainly in Marriott, that does kind of test out a little bit. There was a gap, and the Marriott family found that gap, and that was people now enjoying relative peace following World War II, enjoying the national highway system that had been built under President Eisenhower, had the income now in which to take time off from work and fund a vacation, and decide they want to come to Washington, D.C. to sightsee. And as they're sightseeing, realizing there's really no place to get a refreshment. As many of you know, I'm sure many of you have visited Washington, D.C. in the summertime. It's a swamp, and that's a literal description, not a figurative. It gets hot and sticky, and you do a lot of walking, and you definitely get a powerful thirst. And so that's what they started, A&W root beer stand, right? And then noted that people want a lunch, to take something or eat a bite, grab a bite before they go sightsee, or eat a nice lunch if they can. And so they transitioned to hot shops. Then they realized that there weren't many places to stay. In those days, the guest accommodations in this nation were not the motels and the hotels necessarily that we see in this day and age. So anyway, so take and run with that. Okay. And again, it's not a scavenger hunt. This is one you got to think through. You got to pick the concept. You got to tell me what the value of it is and why it's important to you, and how you'll use it in your role as a leader or a future leader. Okay. So show me what you got. again, post that. Should have been done last night. And let's see, how did everybody do? Good. Okay, so 4 of you got yours in. Thank you. And I ask that you all also respond to others before Friday, before tomorrow night. Some of you have already had, so thank you for that. And for those that don't or haven't yet, no rush. Again, you're given through tomorrow to do that. Okay, your written assignment. The concept this week is risks. Okay, what risks? How did the organization manage risk? Okay, in other words, there are some aspects of risk. How do you minimize or how do you mitigate risk in a decision? Okay, there's different aspects to that. As an example, you mitigate risk in you're driving a vehicle that costs a lot of money by having car insurance, right? So kind of the same thing here. You know, a company, it certainly was risky for Marriott to build an A&W stand or have the franchise. Certainly was risky to build or develop the Hot Shop as a restaurant. Certainly risk in building hotels. Certainly risk in, as we'll see, how they changed their business model. Same thing with Salvation Army. There are aspects of missionary work that are risky. And there's risk in how you set up an organization. And in this case, the Salvation Army, the risk is in part, as you found out in the Salvation Army reading, each of their posts or detachments is commanded, if you will, by a husband-wife team. And that's fascinating to me. Okay. All right. So you're going to develop out a paper that's in this particular response, I should say, about 500 to 750 words, type double space, 1.5-inch margins, top and left, 1-inch margins, bottom right, 12-point font, Times New Roman or Arial. I want you to generally follow the APA format. For these, there's no cover sheet required, certainly, but your final paper will have one. Okay, and then this is where we're talking about the final paper in those chapters. Okay, so I give you a very good explanation here, I think. It's in your syllabus, it's in the written assignments, and it's here. Okay, and what you're doing is you're going to write a chapter that's going to go into your final paper. Each chapter stands on its own, 3 to 5 pages in length. Okay, and hopefully came out of your readings for this week. Okay, can that chapter 1 of the final project be on mission and vision, like you wrote about last week? It sure can. You can take that which you wrote last week, develop it out, okay, because you only did about 500 to 1,000 words, maybe. Here, you're going to want to develop it into the more 3 to 5 page length, okay. But go for it, okay. Paper should have a position statement, the old thesis statement, your conclusion with the evidence of 3 to 5 critical points to back it up. Okay. That conclusion should be an answer, yes or no, right, to the question. So, for example, if this particular chapter was going to be on mission and vision statement, your position statement would probably read, it is critical to effective leadership for the organization to have a mission and vision statement. It's clear and simple, right? You've answered the question. Why am I writing about mission statement? Because for effective leadership, it is critical to have a clear mission and vision statement. And then you would back up, use evidence for what you just read. Okay. All right. Now, that final paper, you're going to add the introduction and conclusion paragraph to the paper. Okay. So, yes, obviously each chapter will have an introduction and a conclusion, right? Your paper will have a separate paragraph introducing the paper and concluding the paper. And you will also add a table of contents, right? And a reference list as you transform all the chapters into the final paper of 15 to 25 pages in length. Okay. All right. In those chapters, you will use a concept. You should probably define it a little bit, right? Show your mastery of that. Find some evidence in the Salvation Army and Marriott books, okay? And you would reference that in your paper. And I found this point, about Marriott writing about mission statement on page whatever, okay? And then reference what that concept you're applying, okay? And again, I refer you back to your previous coursework, give you the whole list, okay? LDR 300, leadership, 340, case studies, 360, innovation, 400, conflict resolution, 440, leading change, which is what I'm teaching now, and effective in another, along with this course, and effective teamwork, 460. Okay, and then as always, relate that to you personally. In other words, how you'll use this in the workplace or your future leadership opportunity, and give you, again, APA guidelines or format, type, double space, Word document, please, right? Follow the instructions, if you will. All right. And that chapter is due Sunday, the 29th. Okay. And then each subsequent chapter is due on Sundays, same thing, through 5 submissions. And then you have a week to consolidate that in and add the introductory and concluding paragraphs and the table of contents, and the reference and the cover sheet into your final paper. Okay. That final paper needs to be in Moodle, uploaded, right? I can't grade that which is not uploaded into Moodle no later than 23:59, 11:59 on Sunday, the 3rd of December. Please get it in, because even though we have classes or a few more days in that week, obviously till Wednesday, that gives me time to do an adequate grade, share that with you, your feedback in case there's any questions, and then be able to post your final grades. I have to have your final grades posted by Thursday of that week, if I can, okay? And that's a university requirement. All right, so it's 7:35, so I've gone my 30 minutes here that I said I would. Talked about this week. Let's take a look real fast. Week 3. Your question for discussion is, we were talking about listening, core values and culture, and organizational change. Okay, so you're going to discuss how you as a leader of an organization enhance the success, excuse me, you'll enhance the success of your organization by listening effectively, retaining your core values. Do you know Charles Brewer, who he developed MindSpring and Earthlink way back when? Before he even knew what his business was going to be, he already wrote what his core values of that organization was going to be. Fascinating, isn't that? In other words, he had already had 9 to 10 points of what his organization was going to stand for or on, or before he even knew what business he was going to be on, whether it was ISP provider, an ISP provider or whatnot. Anyway, and change. Okay. What will you do to make sure you are listening, following, retaining, or reinforcing core values and properly leading your team organization through change, or i.e., remember LDR 440? Okay. And then your writing assignment is, okay, how do the organizations, Salvation Army and Marriott, put people first? Okay. And when I say people, let's make it clear, this is a leadership course. So I'm talking about subordinates in the organization, the employees, the associates, the people that they employ. I'm not talking how the organization treats their clients. Okay. So this is not customer service. Okay. This is not the time or place to talk about necessarily um, returning the giraffe to the little boy or girl that Marriott did, unless you gauge that by how the leadership and encourage the subordinates in that organization to do something like that. You see what I'm getting at here? Okay, so be careful on this. Again, I want to know from a leadership perspective how the organizations put their people, their employees first. Okay. Again, that's due on Saturday, the 4th of November. Okay, next week. I'll put this out. I'll put this out like normal. All right. I didn't get the 10-minute notice. Normally something pops. It says I only got 10 minutes. But I'm going to go ahead and end this here since nobody else joined. Again, I hope some of you or any of you get a chance to review this later. Hope it was of some help. We'll do it again next week. Good Lord willing, and the creek don't rise. I wish you all a good end to your week and a productive weekend. As always, if there's some concern, questions, to please contact me. Many of you have already. Some of you have already contacted me on that final paper. So I hope this explains some of it. And again, I encourage you to read through the syllabus and the assignment instructions and the Moodle. You have all the information here, I think. I don't know how else to be more clear on it. But if there is any questions, then I certainly would rather you ask. Excuse my language. Excuse my burp here. I would rather you ask than not. Okay, and it's never a bother. Okay. Well, everybody take care. It's a pleasure having you in class. Those of you that are turning the work in, I enjoy, because I enjoy reading your insights and your vignettes and what you have to offer. And I encourage you to keep charging, keep after it. This is a capstone course, so that means many of you are getting close to attaining that diploma. So let's get through it and achieve that goal and ride on to future endeavors. Okay. With that, I'm signing off. Take good care of yourselves.